There are two ways to watch Peaky Blinders. You can watch it as the story of a gang rising from the streets of Birmingham to become one of the most powerful organisations in Britain. Or you can watch it as the story of a soldier who never truly left the battlefield. Because beneath every business deal, political alliance and act of violence lies a pattern. Tommy Shelby rarely wins because he's the strongest man in the room. He wins because long before anyone else realises there's a battle to fight, he's already shaping the outcome. It's why he always seems 10 steps ahead.
I am just an extreme example of what a working man can achieve.
But that raises an interesting question. Where did Tommy Shelby learn to think this way? Part of the answer may lie in the First World War, but another part can be found in a military text written more than 2,000 years ago. The Art of War, written by the Chinese military strategist Sun Tzu, isn't simply a book about war. At its core, it's a book about strategy, about leadership, human behaviour, and the importance of avoiding unnecessary conflict. One of its central ideas is that the greatest victories are often won before the battle even begins. And that's exactly how Tommy Shelby operates. He gathers intelligence before making a move. He studies people more closely than he studies weapons. He manipulates perception, conceals his intentions, and forces his opponents into situations where every available choice benefits him. In many ways, Tommy Shelby embodies some of Sun Tzu's most enduring principles.
Do you want tea? Inspector, I responded to your invitation because I want us to understand each other. I'm a businessman.
But there is one lesson he never truly learns. Sun Tzu believed that the purpose of strategy wasn't endless conflict. It was to achieve victory as efficiently as possible so that peace could follow. Tommy masters the art of winning. What he never masters is the art of stopping. And that may be the greatest tragedy of his entire story. Sun Tzu wrote, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." At first glance, that sounds almost impossible. How can you win before a battle has even begun? But that's exactly what separates strategy from reaction. Most people think success is determined in moments of pressure, in the confrontation, the negotiation, or the fight itself. Sun Tzu argues the opposite. The decisive moment often happens long before anyone realizes they're in a contest. The battle is simply where the outcome becomes visible. Tommy Shelby understands this instinctively. He rarely rushes into conflict. Instead, he spends his time gathering information, building alliances, identifying weaknesses, and quietly shifting the balance of power in his favor. By the time his opponents realize they're at war, Tommy has often spent weeks or even months preparing the battlefield.
100% of your business goes to me, right?
Now, when I came in here, Mr. Solomons, I stopped to tie my shoelace. It's not a fact, Ollie. I laid a hand grenade on one of your barrels. My friend upstairs, well, he's like one of those anarchists that they blew up Wall Street. You know, if I don't walk out that door with a stroke of 7, he's going to trigger the grenade and your very combustible rum will blow us all to hell. I don't care. Because I'm already dead.
I'll give you 35%.
35.
More often than not, he isn't predicting the future. He's creating the conditions that make a particular outcome far more likely. And one of the clearest examples comes in Tommy's conflict with Billy Kimber in the first season.
You were also at war with the Lees, Mr. Kimber, am I right?
Tommy never charges at Kimber head on. He knows that would be suicide. Instead, he lets the Shelby betting operation grow, making himself too profitable to dismiss. He plays the loyal partner, earning Kimber's trust while quietly studying his organization, his alliances, and the weak points hidden beneath the bravado.
Police are attacking your bookies and taking your money. Your men can't control them. You need help. Go through with it, but in the end, my conscience got the better of me. She looks good on the outside, but she has the clap.
At the same time, he strengthens the Shelby family's own position, so that by the time the confrontation arrives, the ground has already shifted beneath Kimber's feet. When the showdown finally comes, it feels sudden, but the victory isn't sudden at all. It's the result of careful preparation. Of course, Tommy doesn't control every variable. Inspector Campbell's investigation and Grace's hidden loyalties introduce complications he never fully anticipates. But that doesn't weaken the comparison to Sanju, it strengthens it. Strategy has never been about controlling everything. It's about stacking the odds in your favor before the battle begins. Tommy understands that uncertainty can never be eliminated completely. What matters is reducing it where possible until your opponent is forced to make decisions from an increasingly weaker position. We see the same pattern in Tommy's conflict with the Lee family.
Wirecutters? And why would they leave wirecutters?
Nobody move. I think our friends are playing the game.
What game?
Oh, Paul, don't touch anything.
Rather than relying on brute force, he studies how they think. He anticipates retaliation, sets traps to reveal who is willing to escalate the feud, and gradually transforms a chaotic conflict into one he can predict and manage. Instead of reacting to events, he reshapes them.
Now, if we told you, you wouldn't have come. There's a girl in the Lee family, and she needs marrying.
Oh, fuck.
Listen to me. Listen to me. A girl who needs a husband, a man who needs a wife. So if you back out now, there's going to be one fucking mighty war breaking out here that's going to make the sun look like a fucking tea party. Our family and the Lee family will be united forever, and this war will be over. War or peace.
Later, when Tommy expands into London and challenges Sabini, the difference in power is obvious. Sabini has the territory, the influence, and the numbers. A direct confrontation would almost certainly end in disaster. So, Tommy doesn't fight on Sabini's terms.
The police are a bit busy right now.
Where are Cobbits?
Like I told you, they're a bit busy. My boys are on the track. They're having a little bonfire.
Fuck.
You place too much reliance on the police for your security, Mr. Sabini. That was a mistake.
He builds political connections, secures powerful alliances, and patiently strengthens his own position. Every move is designed to alter the balance of power before the decisive confrontation ever arrives. Across each of these examples, the pattern remains the same. Tommy Shelby doesn't simply respond to events, he engineers the conditions in which these events unfold. And that's perhaps the most important psychological lesson in this chapter. Most people believe strategy is about making the right decision under pressure. In reality, the greatest strategists spend far more time reducing the amount of pressure they'll face in the first place. They shape circumstances early, they limit uncertainty, they quietly narrow their opponent's choices until only one outcome remains. That's why Tommy Shelby so often appears unstoppable. Not because he's lucky, not because he's fearless, but because long before anyone else recognizes the battle, he's already begun to win it.
I am chosen. I'm chosen. Can the chosen one smoke? I have things to do. So perhaps you could tell the chosen one what he has been chosen for.
If preparation is how Tommy Shelby gains an advantage, deception is how he keeps it. Sun Tzu wrote, "All warfare is based on deception." To many people, deception means lying, but Sun Tzu is describing something more precise, the art of deciding what others are allowed to see. The most effective deception doesn't invent a false world. It narrows the one your opponent can observe. Show them one detail, hide another, and they begin building the wrong story for themselves. Tommy Shelby understands this instinctively. He rarely lies outright. Instead, he reveals just enough to keep people guessing and withholds the rest until silence becomes useful.
Just didn't want you to be made a fool of, is all. The lodgings. Chosen for you by the police department. Oh, your landlady used to run the most famous whorehouse in Stetchford. Only semi-retired. I bet the gentleman would find that funny, eh? See you Sunday.
He lets others, his enemies, his allies, even his own family, fill in the blanks, and those blanks often become the trap. That matters because people rarely act on reality itself. They act on the version of reality they believe. Tommy knows if he can shape the story in someone's head, he doesn't always need to control the events outside it. His opponents often defeat themselves before he ever has to move. One of the clearest examples comes in season 3, when the Shelby family believe they are about to be executed. The pressure closes in, and each of them reacts as if the end has already arrived. Arthur braces for the worst. Polly sees Tommy as having pushed them beyond recovery. John prepares himself for a death he thinks is inevitable. Even the audience is led to believe Tommy has finally run out of road. But Tommy has already secured a pardon and quietly broken the conspiracy against them. He knows the danger of telling everyone too soon. The more people who know the plan, the more chances there are for it to collapse before it can be used. So he says nothing. Not because he enjoys their fear, but because secrecy is what makes the rescue possible. The deception is not just aimed at the men trying to end them. It is aimed at the people closest to him, because even love can become a liability when too many people are carrying the same secret. That is what makes Tommy so unsettling. He is not simply protecting the people he loves, he is also deciding how much of the truth they are allowed to bear. We see the same pattern in his dealings with Alfie Solomons. Their conversations are full of jokes, threats, and half-finished thoughts. But the real exchange is happening underneath the words.
Like policemen, because policemen, they can't be trusted.
Mr. Sabini uses policemen all the time. That's why he's winning the war in London. And you are losing it.
War ain't over till it's over, mate. You win the war. I once carried out my own personal form of stigmata on an Italian. I pushed his face up against the trench and shoved a 6-inch nail up his fucking nose, and I hammered it home with a duckboard. It was fucking biblical, mate.
Each man is trying to learn what the other knows without giving away too much in return.
That war was a long time ago. You need to be more realistic.
Realistic, yeah? Realistic.
Well, if you weren't losing the war, then you wouldn't send me the telegram.
Really? You forget your fucking telegram. Your telegram just said hello. It's very simple. You want to sell me something. What?
We joined forces.
Fuck off.
A pause becomes a test. A joke becomes a probe. Silence can matter more than a promise. It is less like a conversation than a contest over who will blink first. Tommy understands that information is power, and that the person who speaks first often gives away the most. The less his opponents know about his intentions, the more likely they are to reveal their own.
Your distillery provides 1/10 of your income. Protection is another 10% of the rest you make from the racetracks. I know you keep a gun in the drawer. I know you keep it beside the whiskey. I know you offer a deal or death. I know what I'm saying makes you angry, but I'm offering you a solution.
Billy Kimber falls into that trap early on. He sees Tommy as a clever bookmaker with ambition, nothing more. Tommy never rushes to correct him. He lets Kimber keep the smaller story because it is safer for Tommy if his enemy mistakes him for a man reaching upward rather than one with his foot already on the ladder on his way up the climb. That is how deception works in Tommy's world. He does not force people to believe the wrong thing. He gives them enough rope to build the wrong conclusion themselves. Luca Changretta makes the same mistake. Convinced the Shelbys are isolated and cornered, he believes he is tightening the noose around Tommy's neck. What he cannot see is that Tommy has already been moving pieces behind the scenes, calling in allies, setting terms, and preparing the final reversal before Luca realizes the game has changed.
You may know there are two families in Brooklyn who want to take over your monopoly on the import of liquor into New York. But if you were to die in a vendetta with some fucking bookmaker in Birmingham, I could take over your business without a war.
We also contacted a businessman in Chicago.
His name is Alphonse Capone. You've been talking to that fat fuck.
By the time Luca understands what Tommy has done, the outcome is already slipping away from him. His defeat begins long before the trigger is pulled. Across every season, Tommy returns to the same principle. He does not always win by force. He wins by controlling what others think is happening. Because once you can shape another person's perception of reality, you can shape the choices they make inside it. And sometimes the most powerful lie is the one you never have to tell. Sun Tzu wrote, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." At first glance, it sounds like pure military advice. But beneath it lies a psychological principle. Strategy is not simply about understanding situations. It's about understanding people. That is especially true with men like Alfie Solomons. Alfie is too unpredictable to reduce to a pattern, and Tommy never wastes time pretending otherwise. He reads enough to know what Alfie values, what he will tolerate, and where the leverage lies. With Alfie, Tommy doesn't try to control the man so much as manage the risk. Most people believe strategy begins with planning. In reality, it often begins with prediction. And prediction depends on one thing above all else: understanding human behavior. Tommy Shelby rarely tries to overpower people. He tries to understand them. He studies ambition before authority, fear before violence, greed before money, pride before reputation. Because beneath every decision is a motive, and beneath every motive is a person trying to protect something. That is what Tommy is really looking for. Not what people do, but why they do it. One of the clearest examples is Inspector Campbell. When Campbell arrives in Birmingham, he carries himself like a man who already understands the city. He sees the Shelbys as criminals to be controlled and himself as the man destined to restore order. Tommy, however, notices something different. He notices that Campbell's identity depends on being the man in control. He doesn't simply want to catch criminals. He needs to believe he is morally and intellectually superior to them. That need becomes predictable. Campbell believes pressure will force Tommy into making mistakes. He expects intimidation to produce obedience and emotional provocation to expose weaknesses. But Tommy rarely gives him what he's looking for.
I would do things that would shame the devil. The only one to be spared would be your little brother Finn. He would, however, be lifted as a juvenile and dumped in that part of the adult prison where men have the most appetite for boys like him, if my dismissal comes before your decision. You understand? The clock is ticking.
He remains calm, measured, respectful even. Not because he isn't afraid, but because he understands that emotional control is strategic control. By refusing to react, Tommy denies Campbell the confirmation he is searching for. Psychologically, this is a fascinating reversal. Campbell believes he is studying Tommy. In reality, Tommy is studying Campbell.
Men like us, Mr. Shelby, We'll always be alone. And what love we get, we will have to pay for.
You forget, Inspector, I have my family.
He recognizes that when someone's identity becomes rigid, their behavior becomes much easier to predict. Campbell's confidence convinces him that he is always the hunter. Tommy quietly realizes that even hunters leave patterns. If Campbell reveals how he sees himself, Tommy can often anticipate what he'll do next. We see a very different kind of psychology in Tommy's relationship with Alfie Solomons. As I said before, on the surface, Alfie appears impossible to read. He changes the subject without warning. He hides serious intentions behind humour. He contradicts himself. He rambles. He provokes. His behaviour feels chaotic. Most people would conclude that a man like Alfie cannot be predicted. Tommy reaches a different conclusion.
I want him to acknowledge that he who fights by the sword, he fucking dies by it, Tommy. So what, they took your boy, did they? Huh? You got your boy. And what fucking line am I supposed to have crossed? How many fathers, right? How many sons, yeah? Have you cut, killed, murdered, fucking butchered, innocent and guilty, to send them straight to fucking hell, ain't you? Just like me! You fucking stand there. You, judging me, stand there and talk to me about crossing some fucking line. Right, you pulled that trigger for a fucking honourable reason. Like an honourable man, not like some fucking civilian that does not understand the wicked way of our world, mate.
He stops trying to understand Alfie's behaviour and instead he studies his values. Because behaviour changes. Values rarely do. Tommy learns that Alfie values survival above pride, leverage above appearances, intelligence above emotion, and honesty between equals more than blind loyalty. Once Tommy understands those principles, Alfie's decisions become far less surprising. Even his betrayals begin to make sense. Tommy no longer asks, what is Alfie going to do? He asks, what would a man like Alfie choose to protect? That question reveals far more than any individual action ever could. It also explains why their conversations are some of the most compelling in the series. Neither man is trying to impress the other. Neither is interested in empty threats. Every conversation is an investigation. Every joke tests a boundary. Even silence collects information. Before either man makes a move, they're studying the person sitting opposite them. Their conversations seem more like two psychologists interviewing each other than two men having a conversation about business dealings. And that's where Tommy differs from most people. Most of us spend our lives trying to predict behaviour. Tommy tries to understand motivation. He asks different questions. What does this person fear? What are they protecting? What do they value? And what story do they tell themselves about who they are? Because once you understand the answers to those questions, behaviour becomes far easier to anticipate. Across the series, Tommy proves the same lesson again and again. People are rarely defeated because they're weaker. They're defeated because they're predictable. And the most predictable thing about any person is often the thing they believe nobody else can see. By now, it's easy to see why Tommy Shelby is such an effective strategist. He prepares long before the battle begins. He controls what others perceive. He studies people more closely than they study themselves. In many ways, he becomes the embodiment of Sun Tzu's philosophy. But there is one lesson he never truly learns. Sun Tzu wrote, "There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare." At first glance, it seems like advice about armies. In reality, it's advice about people. Conflict is expensive. Even victory comes at a cost. The longer a war continues, the more it consumes everyone involved, including the victor. And this is where Tommy Shelby begins to depart from Sun Tzu. Before the First World War, the Tommy we're told about is almost unrecognizable. His family remembers a young man who laughed easily, who was playful, affectionate, and full of possibility. Then he goes to France. The war ends, but for Tommy, it never truly does. He returns home with the habits that kept him alive in the trenches. Stay alert, trust very few people, assume danger is always close, never stop planning, never let your guard down. In a battlefield, those instincts are invaluable. In ordinary life, they become a prison. Tommy never simply builds a business. He wages a campaign. He never simply enters politics. He opens another front. Even the people he loves becomes part of a strategy designed to protect the family from threats that never seem to disappear. Without realizing it, Tommy stops treating conflict as something he experiences. He begins treating it as a natural state of existence. Psychologically, this is something we often see after prolonged trauma. When someone spends years living in an environment where danger is constant, the brain adapts. Hypervigilance, emotional detachment, and relentless planning become essential for survival. The problem is that survival mechanisms don't always disappear when the danger does. They can become the lens through which a person experiences the entire world. For Tommy, peace begins to feel unfamiliar. Conflict feels purposeful. Every victory convinces him that one more battle will finally bring security. One more expansion, one more enemy defeated, one more problem solved. But the finish line never arrives. Instead, every victory creates another conflict. Grace is murdered. John is killed. Polly dies. Ruby dies. Michael, once family, becomes consumed by revenge. Arthur slowly collapses beneath the weight of violence, addiction, and grief. The Shelby family fractures, not because Tommy lacks intelligence, but because the strategies that made him powerful are no longer serving the life he's trying to protect. And that is the tragedy at the heart of Peaky Blinders. Tommy Shelby becomes so good at surviving war that he forgets how to live without one. Sanju believed strategy existed to end conflict as efficiently as possible, allowing peace to follow. Tommy achieves the first half. He wins, again and again, but he never allows himself the second. He cannot stop looking over his shoulder. He cannot stop preparing for the next attack. He cannot stop believing that safety is always one victory away. And in trying to ensure that he would never again be powerless, he creates a life in which power becomes an obsession. Conflict becomes routine, and the people he loves are drawn into wars they never chose to fight. Perhaps Tommy Shelby's greatest tragedy isn't that he survived the First War. It's that in many, many ways, the First World War never stopped living inside him. Throughout Peaky Blinders, Tommy Shelby shows an uncanny gift for reading people. He can step into a room and before anyone speaks, sense the bargains, fears, and loyalties shaping it. Again and again, he proves Sanju right. Know your enemy. But Sanju's warning goes further. Know yourself too. And that is where Tommy fails. For all his insight into others, there is one person he never truly understands. Himself. The series is most revealing, not in the negotiations, maneuvers, or gunfights, but in the quiet moments when Tommy is alone. The suit comes off, the cigarette burns low, the room goes still. In public, he seems untouchable. In private, he looks exhausted, haunted, unable to sit with himself for long before reaching for the next problem, the next battle, the next fire to put out. He is almost always in motion, planning, building, expanding, not simply because ambition drives him, but because stillness would force him to face the enemy strategy cannot outwit, his own pain. The war never leaves him. It survives in memory, grief, guilt, and the silence he works so hard to avoid. Work distracts him, power distracts him, control distracts him. Each new objective promises relief. Each victory suggests the burden might finally ease. It never does, because what he is trying to escape was never across the table. It was inside him all along. Psychologically, this is Tommy's deepest contradiction. He believes control creates safety, so he tries to control everything: his businesses, alliances, enemies, his family's future, even what those closest to him are allowed to know. But control cannot ease grief. No strategy can bargain with it. No deception can outsmart it. No plan can stop it from demanding to be felt. The harder Tommy tries to master the world around him, the further he drifts from the world within. This is why his victories feel hollow. The business grows, the enemy falls, the empire expands, he gains influence, respect, power, and still the satisfaction never lasts and the silence always returns. He keeps looking for peace in places that cannot offer it. His mistake is not that he misunderstands other people, it's that he believes the next victory will heal a wound strategy was never built to touch. That is Tommy Shelby's final contradiction. He spends his life becoming impossible for others to defeat, yet remains vulnerable to the one battle he refuses to face honestly. Sanju says true victory requires knowing both enemy and self. Tommy studies everyone else, their motives, fears, weaknesses, but never fully confronts his own. The walls he builds to protect himself become the walls that isolate him. He can read every person in the room, predict every move, win battles that seem unwinnable. But there is one battlefield he can never leave, the one inside him. Perhaps that is why Tommy Shelby remains so compelling. Not because he is invincible, but because beneath the intelligence, the reputation, the power, he is still fighting a war that no one else can see. At the beginning of this video, I said Tommy Shelby wins wars because he understands strategy. But by the end of Peaky Blinders, the tragedy is that he can no longer live without one. He learns how to prepare, deceive, and outthink every enemy. He understands that perception matters, that human nature can be read, and that victory often comes before the first shot is even fired. But none of that can save him from what war has done to him. Every win costs more. Every enemy defeated leaves another behind, and the peace he keeps chasing never arrives, because the real battle is inside him. That is why Tommy Shelby resonates so deeply. He is not just a man who survives violence, he is a man who is consumed by it. In the end, Tommy Shelby does not fail because he misunderstands strategy. He fails because strategy cannot heal grief. He mastered the art of war. He never learned the art of peace. Because peace requires trust. And Tommy Shelby learned in those tunnels that trusting the wrong people could get you buried alive.
Spent a long time waiting for the cavalry, mate. One time, me and my comrades waited 3 days. The cavalry finally came, an officer on the back of a fine white horse. Joked that he'd been delayed, playing a game of whist.